I'd like to begin by reading once more, as I have before, in times of need, when the world seemed shaken by current events, our 7 UU principles, followed by the 6 sources from which our traditions draw strength. Unitarian Universalism's 7 principles. We believe in 1. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. 2. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. 3. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. 4. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning. 5. The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. 6. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. 7. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. Unitarian Universalism's 6 sources. 1. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. 2. Words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. 3. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. 4. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. 5. Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. 6. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature.
In preparation for this day, Mrs. Audrey Barcelow, who with her late husband, Charlie Barcelow, and 4 others, was a founding member of Community UU Church back in 1996-97, shared with me a message she and Charlie had crafted on the subject of why our denomination's principles and sources remain relevant to UUs in our own personal spiritual paths as we search for truth and meaning. I quote Audrey when I say, "May our minds be open to the power of love and the insight that we weave together." In the words of UU Steve Stock, we celebrate the inherent worth and dignity of every person and reaffirm the historic pledge of liberal religion to seek that justice which transcends mere legality and moves toward the resolution of a true equity. We share that love which is ultimately beyond even our cherished reason, that love which unites us. The story of Audrey and Charlie Barcelow is all about love and its power to unite people. First, it brought together Audrey and Charlie themselves, leading to a relationship which blossomed into a long and happy marriage. Then, it led our friends Audrey and Charlie to parenthood, as they created a very large and happy family that would surround them with children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And always at the center, at the core, at the innermost heart of this circle was love. Love whispers still from the sparkling stars of the universe to Audrey, reminding her, "You are never alone." and this wellspring will never run dry. We are reminded of it every time we sing a beloved UU hymn, like Spirit of Life, Love Will Guide Us, or Audrey's favorite, Let It Be a Dance. Charlie Barcelow noted that good people come in many different shapes and sizes, though, as UUs, we celebrate a liberal religious tradition, seeing joy and wonder in the multitude, the plurality of faith paths in our nation and the world. We don't all need to worship alike to follow the golden rule. Treat others as you'd wish to be treated, and to look for divinity in every living thing. Unitarian Universalists, like Charlie and Audrey, remind us of the empowerment that comes from exercising our right when discussing politics, world affairs, current events, just as when speaking of the practices of religious faith, to say, let's agree to disagree. In other words, I don't have to agree with the core beliefs of any faith group to see its members as seekers of truth and inspiration, worthy of dignity and respect. I don't have to agree with someone's political opinions to believe that we share values relative to some critical issues of our time, such as conserving precious resources like clean water, necessary not just for you and me, but for generations to come. Those children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of whom I spoke earlier included. Every advancement made on the part of science and bureaucracy that provides for our planet's human populations and those that seek to conserve other species and life forms, including those in the forests and oceans whose continued existence we humans have all too often been taking for granted over the past 300 to 400 years in particular, matters. The future matters. Does a butterfly have civil rights? Does a bee? If we choose to ignore their right to exist, what kind of a future will we leave behind for the generations to come? Don't they deserve to see a world in which these amazing creatures can thrive? I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but our Unitarian Universalist message of inclusion, our insistence on the right to exist and to thrive, not just for all humans, but for all of Earth's creatures, is of paramount importance to me and to virtually all of my fellow UUs. We will learn to thrive together in a climate of love and respect with dignity, or we shall perish together. The simple life lessons encoded into our UU principles and sources are a roadmap to a better future, a sustainable future for us and the generations that follow and the planet. But we have to keep acting upon what we believe. We have to keep talking about what we believe. We have to keep voting for those who will act upon the issues we know matter to the process of keeping this route to a sustainable future open and free of obstacles. We have to see the forest and the trees, because if we don't act to save them now, we'll miss them sorely when they're gone. We know the road ahead is a difficult one. Doing the right thing, making good choices, often leads to resistance. Sometimes, as we've seen this year and in years past, armed resistance. But as the sages have been saying for millennia, the hard road is worth the journey. Trust me, friends, people do not become Unitarian Universalists in order to network and get rich. No, we do it because our souls demand it. We expect no less of ourselves. We cannot live with ourselves otherwise. We have to keep speaking truth to power. We have to keep resisting oppression, injustice, abuse, and exploitation of those with no public voice. by those with a bully pulpit, empowered by money, publicity, and the time-worn tracks of commerce. Where we see systemic oppression, we must act. We must speak out again and again and again until we are seen, until we are heard. We must and we will. This is what we UUs mean when we use the word covenant. This word speaks of a relationship that works both ways. If I am in covenant with you, I have a responsibility to look out for your welfare, as you have a responsibility to look out for mine. We are in a symbiotic relationship. I want what's best for you and vice versa. Unitarian Universalists know that humanity needs to be in covenant with our planet Earth and all of her species and systems, including weather systems. This is mandatory if we are to survive into the future. Also, human beings need to be in covenant with other human beings. The citizens of the United States of America need to be in covenant with the citizens of every nation, regardless of its leadership. We need to speak out for one another, show concern for one another, react strongly when there is danger happening to another, protect one another when tragic events occur. Time and time again, we humans demonstrate our ability to do this, and we must continue to do so. Language and culture barriers are overcome by good people acting on the love and compassion that fills our hearts. Just look at world news reports through the recent decades, and you will see clear evidence of this happening over and over and over. What I am saying is that it is in our nature to love. That is why the world's religions teach us that the love in our hearts is a reflection of divinity, literally of divine being. Let that sink in for a minute. Say to yourself now, I am a reflection of a divine being. Let this become a mantra for life's most difficult moments. I am a reflection of a divine being. Breathe that in for a moment. Stay with it. Okay, now ask yourself, what can I do to manifest this more freely? How can I best express this? How can I put my principles to work to see them in action in the world around me? What will I do next? Next September of 2021, will mark 75 years since Audrey Barcelo met her future husband when she was just 14 years old. It will mark 70 years since the day of their wedding. Ask Audrey, if you wish, how she has filled these years, how quickly they have passed, what principles have helped along the way. I think she may tell you that love and compassion were the shining lights that lit the path. Audrey provided me with a responsive reading for today's message that I will share with you now.
The light of the world. We all can be the light of the world if we seek to act in ways that enlarge the realms of love and justice. When we share another's pain or offer a comforting ear to a friend in need, we are the light of the world. When we give bread to the hungry or support ways to house the homeless, we are the light of the world. when we fight temptations to wrongdoing within ourselves and treat our neighbors with respect, we are the light of the world. When we try to overcome differences with understanding and solve conflict with peaceful means, we are the light of the world. When we look for the good in other people and in ourselves, we are the light of the world. When we do not stay quiet in the face of prejudice, but speak our minds firmly and gently, we are the light of the world. When we fight despair within ourselves and side with hope, we are the light of the world. When we use our powers justly and in the service of love for humanity, we are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. Amen. Blessed be. Aho. And at Community Unitarian Universalist Church in New Smyrna Beach, we use aho, a Lakota word that means essentially amen, as a tradition. In closing, I would like to revisit a concept that I have heard over the past couple of decades, voiced by my dear friends Charlie and Audrey Barcelo, among others. As Unitarian Universalists, we belong to a denomination, a tradition, which has no creed. In fact, since folks in our UU circles are encouraged to seek truth for themselves and to find reverence for and create rituals around what inspires them most. To some, a creed seems pointless. Agreeing upon a creed seems like a hopeless task. And some detractors extrapolate that UUs are, quote, without principle or morality, unquote, because our denomination has not adopted a creed. I hope this message today has shown you otherwise, for in adopting our 7 UU principles and bearing witness to the 6 sources for our common UU beliefs, we have shown the world that human beings can agree to agree about what matters most to us. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Namaste, which I translate as the spark of divine being in me celebrates the spark of divine being in you.